It is an Android device. So to get to the system settings where I got into my Wi-Fi, you're gonna swipe down from the top. Okay, that's gonna bring up this screen. So you can see we're connected to ISU Park. To connect to Wi-Fi, just press and hold that Wi-Fi symbol, and it will go to, and you can connect to whatever you need to. So we're already connected. An Android phone has a home button and a back button. They're physically in these two buttons right here. So I can go back and press the back button there. It'll take me back page. Okay. At the top, to sign in, the icon in the upper left, you'll press that. That takes you to the sign in page. This is you signed in. There's your flight record, zero zone unlocking. We'll talk about that. There's where you download your offline map. So if I'm going to go to a place where I don't have Wi-Fi, I can come to my place, I can say, hey, download offline map, and then you select an area and a resolution you want to download. It'll download it to internal memory, and when you're on the side, then you can fly it. There's your help documentation. So the latest and greatest PDF file is right there, and you can read it right on the screen if you need to. This is the main page, so it says, hey, we're on the Matrice 300 RTK. My payload is the P1. This is controller A. You can't have two flight controllers if you want. You can play past the puck out there in the field. All modules need to be updated, so we're going to have to do a firmware update. So we may not fly until after you get that one ready. We'll find out. We're in a location that tells us what our max flight altitude is here. Well, by law, we can only fly up to 400 feet AGL. But in reality, our ceiling is at 4,000. Don't worry about the cloud service. You do not have the DJI cloud service. That's for enterprise, like large businesses, to keep track of individual pilots and stuff like that on a big, what is it called, DJI what?
Forget.
Flight
Hub.
Hub.
There it is.
So you never have to worry about that.
So it's just to keep track of.
Yeah, it's-
not for data. or
Yeah,
anything
it's for
like that.
businesses keeping track of flight logs.
Okay.
You have the Academy. The Academy is going to take you, basically, it's going to live stream YouTube videos and things like this. If you want to learn about any of these things or forget about it, hey, I have the P1 camera, I forgot how to set it up. You can go to P1 and you can choose what you want to. And you can run this controller without even having it. And by the way, all those videos and stuff are on the DJI website. Your album, as I take photos, if I take a picture right now, I took a picture. If I go to my album, okay, we're busy. Let me take a picture here. There we go.
And you're not
I'm
the best
recording.
angle of you.
Take a picture.
Oh, that's better.
So take a picture. So now if I'm back to the home page, your album is basically going to contain some video. We test fly all the drones beforehand, so these are photos that were taken. Those are actually on the SD card on inside the camera. So it's just a low resolution copy of those. Okay. So you can delete, I mean, you can delete it from here if you want to. You can select these ones, say, for selected, delete. All right. So you have two views you can go into. If you're just going to fly, let's say you do inspection, or you do manual shots, things like that, we're just going to test fly, which we're going to do out. You're going to press Enter Camera View, the bottom right. The first page you come across is your standard pre-flight check page. These are settings. There are dozens of settings in this thing that you can set up your drone. These are the most common ones that you'll be doing mission by mission. So on a case-by-case, mission-by-mission basis, these may be modified depending on your conditions. Okay. At the crop, on the left side is your health management system. So I talked about all the different, you'll never want to really fly until that bar is green. So where it says caution HMS, once that's green, you're good to fly. You're ready to go. Okay. If it's yellow, you're going to press it and it's gonna take you into the health management system. So here are all the subsystems of the aircraft. It tells you everything you need to know. If you scroll up, you can see that we do not have an RTK solution because we have no satellites in the building. So it's just preventing us from flying because of that. You can also see on this health management system, there's the maintenance program. So we talked about getting that documentation. So if I go to the maintenance program, this is where it keeps maintenance records. You can request maintenance from this page, or you can request it from the DJI website, either or. It's easier to do it from the DJI website because you can fill it out a little bit easier. If you're in the field, you can do it from here as well. All right. Oops, you go back into that cost management system. There's also firmware updates that need to be done. So we're gonna update the firmware. It may take a while, so just be aware of that. So right here where it says firmware update, if I press that, I can say update all Wexel. They just came with an update, what, a week and a half ago for everything. So we're gonna have to update everything.
Is that update sign always there, or it is up there only when there is
Only
an
when
update?
there's an update. Yeah, you're fine if it's not there. So firmware will say current if it's good. There's your manage log, so when you fly, you can see your flight logs and any air records are right there. We'll go to the update before we go too long. Across the top, you can see the different modes. Of course, we're in P mode, that's this switch. There's your battery charge and temperature. There are your internals, so the next one, 67% and 92% are these two respective batteries. This is controller A, it's the only controller. The RTK is not connected. And then I'm actually recording video. How can I tell? Because the memory is going down on the card. So I'm gonna stop the video. I told you I'll hit that video like 100 times before I'm done here. So that should now amount of memory. You have 115 gigabytes left on that SD card. That'll get you a lot of photos. About 6,000 photos, I think.
Yeah, maybe more than that. It's a ton of photos.
There's your return to home altitude, okay? Return to home altitude is when I press and hold this home button, that's the altitude it climbs to. It's my recommendation you set that to at or a little above your mission altitude, just to be safe, okay? So if I'm flying at 250 feet, you can either use the buttons here to add or subtract, and just, or you can press the actual number you're there and then type in, hey, I want 250 feet. Notice it went to 249. It really is doing everything in meters in the background, okay? So everything's SI units inside the controller. It's doing a hard conversion to this feet. Do you guys want to work in meters or want to work in feet? It's up to you. I know in the university environment, I did everything in metric. In the real world, we have to, it's up to you. I'll let you choose that. Max altitude, 400 feet by law is as high as you can fly. So we usually leave that alone. You're not gonna make a mission at 394 really. Your home point, those two buttons. So when I take off the drone from that location, that becomes the home point. It'll say home point recorded when it takes off. So when I hit this return to home point, that's where it's gonna go. If somebody parks a vehicle there or something else, I could use these two buttons. I could fly the drone to an open field location, press the left button there, the little X, this guy right here, and it'll record that location as the home point. So that's where it will go and land. The one on the right with the little human figure that says the letter A on it, wherever I'm standing, I can say, make me the home point. And then I'm gonna move out of the way, so when I press return to home, it's gonna come back and land where I'm standing. Max flight distance, you always wanna turn that off. Your max flight distance may be 20,000 feet, away or something like that. Well, not that far. We'll say 10,000 feet. I've flown a mission as far away as 1.5 miles and still be able to see the drone, so you want it off. Out of control action, if something happens, if I drop the controller in a puddle of water, and it goes out, the drone will immediately return to home and land itself. Customized battery warning. So when I said you have 40 minutes of flight time, that's until critical battery actually. Okay, that's until that 20%. When it reaches 20%, control is gonna beep incessantly at you and tell you that there's a low battery, please return to home. Okay? At 10%, it's gonna drop everything it's doing and return to home. Okay? Or if it's low enough, it's just gonna land where it's at. So if you're out over the middle of a lake or something like that, you better book it back. Okay? Pay attention when you're making a mission. It takes more energy to fly into the wind than away. So when you're making your mission, you want to make sure you set it up and kind of idealize. I like to make that last point either as close to me as I can, or at least upwind so it can glide and use the wind to come back, because it's going to be low on energy.
So is 10%
Yeah, I would.
by experience enough for?
Yeah, I would say this is a good setting. We don't really modify these at all. You're going to get the most value for your flight time in this configuration.
Because Iowa is usually very windy, so
Yeah,
Missouri is as windy as Iowa, isn't it? Is it?
it's pretty windy.
I think so.
We couldn't fly our fixed wing yesterday. It was windy, that windy. But this drone will fly in 25 mile an hour, 25 knot wind. I wouldn't make a mission there. Usually I don't fly anything more than 20 sustained. 18 to 20 sustained is good. It's going to complain the entire time it's in the air. High wind, fly with caution, high wind, fly with caution. But it'll handle it like a chap. It has a top speed of about, 35, 40 miles an hour. So it'll handle gusts up to 25. The problem becomes if it's too windy, it has to compensate for the wind so much by tilting that you're apt to get your leg into the shot and ruin your shots. So you gotta watch for things like that.
So, do you think we should abort the mission and come back at 20%?
Yeah, when it starts beeping at you, you're gonna pause the mission, return to home, and then
Oh,
you can
yeah,
hot
yeah.
swap the batteries and then hit play and return back to the table. But we can test that today. Those are your optical avoidance systems: horizontal, upward, downward sensing. They're turned on when they're blue. They're turned off when they're gray. Okay. You pretty much want those on all the time. You can change the brake alert. So it has 3 modes. It has a mode where it detects an object. It has a mode where it warns you and audibly beeps when you're near an object. And then there's a dead stop. Okay. So the right slider is where it's going to start beeping at you. The left slider is where it's going to come to a halt.
Okay.
Usually the verticals I don't change because you're going to be flying close to the bridge beams and things like that. So you want to be within 2 or 3 feet. So I usually leave those alone. The bottom I leave those as low too, so you want to get close to the ground or hover low. The horizontal sensing, it's going to alert you at 100 feet brake. Yeah, that's a little much. I might slide that back. We usually alert at about 25 to 30 feet. And then brake at 10 feet. Because there may be times you're flying in a narrow area where you gotta get between bushes or trees or something. And if you have that brake too wide, it's just gonna come to a stop and not be able to go forward where you want to. So brake 30, it's gonna alert you and beep at 30. Anything more than that, it's gonna constantly be going off and being an annoyance. If I scroll up, I think that's it. So on this page, when you're in manual mode, all you gotta do is press the X at the top, and then you notice the camera view. Okay. Let's see if there's that button. Nope. This button.
Gimbal recenter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You may or may not wanna change that.
What was it, the right one now?
Left one.
Gimbal recenter.
Left one. We could take that off. Okay, so let's go through the different modes. So, again, it's a touch screen. We have a warning system at the top. I'll point things out to you.
Alright, I'll be back.
Okay. This is your warning. Every time you have a message that comes across, whether it's a high wind or an aircraft or something, you'll have the warning base. You notice the number 2 is blinking, okay? So if I come here and I press the number 2, okay, I'll sit over here. So if I come over here and I press the number 2, it's gonna tell me what messages are. So the messages are persistent until I clear them off. RTK signal weak, RTK base station not found, check base station. So it's basically telling me I don't have a solution for this area, okay? So I cannot fly. Once the solution is corrected, or the problem is corrected, they will disappear. Oops. Okay. So it's telling you I wouldn't be able to start the engine to take off in the air if I tried. Because I'm on satellite mode and I can't find any satellites, and so it's done. This is the number of satellites it's receiving. This is your RC signal strength is good. Green is always good, red is always bad. Yellows fly with caution. And these are the batteries in the aircraft. You want to make sure these batteries are within like 5% of each other in charge. Is it 5%? You don't want to fly with one battery at a full charge and one at 25%. It'll fail to do so. They will equalize themselves. If they're within 5% of each other, they'll share charge and equalize themselves, which is kind of nice. This is the view of the P1 camera. So here is telling me everything about my camera settings right now. When you're in a mission mode, the mission will override any manual settings you have. So I could set up for like an inspection or autofocus or manual focus, whatever you would do for a normal digital camera, you can set that up here, but when you're in a mission mode, it'll override that to give you the best quality. Okay. Here are your settings menus. So if I go to the camera menus for this, I can press that button. The top there is I press the little camera icon. Maybe. Why does it let me press the camera icon? Oh, because I'm in video mode. There we go. So now I'm in photo mode. What in the world? Let me set this. This got to go. Reset camera. I've had this happen to me twice. There we go. The light level is so low.
Yeah.
You can't see anything. All right. So. This is your trigger. Let's take a single shot. This is your menu. This tells me that I'm in single shot camera mode. And this is the review button. So when I take a picture, I can press here and review the shot that I took. If I want to change the video mode, I can press this square. It'll say, hey, do you want to do it in video mode or time mode or whatever? So if I choose video, then I'll go to video mode and it'll ask me what FPS and all that kind of stuff that I want to go to. So any of the menu settings I see at the top here, by pressing that menu button, are only applicable to the video. Okay. So video format is going to be MP4. Again, for mission, this is all for manual stuff. If you're going to do missions, you really don't have to get into this too much, but it works just like a regular camera. White balance mode, you set that to whatever the conditions are outside, sunny day or whatever. Auto is good. If I switch this now to camera mode, then the menu gives me settings for image ratio, image format. So image format is going to be JPEG or JPEG and RAW, etc. The ... takes me to advanced settings. And the same is going to hold true with the LiDAR. I'll put the LiDAR on and show you those settings. Create folder is turned on. That means every time I fly the mission to take photos, on the SD card, it's going to put that in a folder with the date and time on it. So I can organize my photos that way. Okay. If I say create folder. Mechanical shutter, I always want on 100% of the time. You do not want rolling shutter with this camera. It will ruin your photos. Okay. It does do both for some reason. I don't know why. The global shutter takes the photo all in one shot, where rolling shutter scans. You ever see the picture of a propeller on a video where it kind of bends and curves? Yep. That's a rolling shutter. Okay. A global shutter, it would be straight. It takes the picture all in one shot, and that's what you want for photogrammetry. That's what makes this camera high-end. Dewarping, you always want that turned off. because the software, so there's gonna be a slight fisheye effect to the photo. Pix4D will take that out and flatten the image out. If you do it here, Pix4D will double dip on it and you'll end up with a convex or concave lens. If anything, if you mess up any of your settings, you can go to the main menu here, go to that ellipses button there, press the triple button, come down and say reset camera settings, and it'll reset anything to factory default, which is what I did. Down here, well actually it's supposed to be, yeah, let's take this one. Down here is everything to do with your flight. So when you're taking photos and stuff with this drone, you also have to keep track of altitude, speed, whatever. Okay? That information's all gonna be down here. There's your speed in miles per hour. There's your altitude. This is altitude AGL. This is above ground level from where you took off. You'll also get mean sea level, so you'll get your true altitude in there as well. You'll get your vertical speed, how fast you're going up, how fast you're going down. You'll also get a wind speed. So it'll estimate the wind speed based upon how much it has to fight to stay still. This is your obstacle avoidance warning system. So in different directions, it's gonna shoot out, it detects objects in these areas, okay? As I walk around and get close to something, you see how it changes?
Yeah.
So the red means it would stop. So if it's in flight, it's gonna be a stop condition.
Attitude mode.
Yep. So you can see it
Attitude mode.
changes as it finds things.
Attitude mode. Attitude mode.
Doesn't like it. Pull up. So now I got all these, so you see as warnings go away, they'll automatically start coming down. So this is your obstacle avoidance system. This is your compass azimuth heading. This blue line represents which way the gimbal is facing. So if I use the controller to turn it to the right, oops, right. You can see that blue arrow pointing.
Oh,
So this is telling me this is the direction the aircraft is facing, but my camera is facing off this way. Plus you got your compass on here. This is your vertical, so this is your pitch angle for the camera. So as I move the pitch angle up and down, it will change as well. And it'll give you a gimbal angle here from the horizon. And this is your vertical obstacle avoidance system. So we have it so narrow when we're up in the sky, if you're in this band, it's gonna say, hey, I did so. It's on the ground, that's why you're seeing, hey, that's the ground. So as I take off, this is gonna lower down the way. This appears in both this camera view and the first person camera view. Except the first person camera view is the view out of this fixed camera here. And it's gonna show you the same thing. Wind speed, your horizontal speed, your altitude, your vertical speed, your above sea level altitude. This is the ceiling. Oh no, yeah. Should be. No, that's your, is that your ceiling? I can't tell. 7 feet, I can't remember. Anyway. And then this is your artificial horizon. So as the drone will automatically roll when it's
Attitude mode.
moving. So it
Attitude
will
mode.
rotate, and you see the horizon moves with the horizon.
Attitude mode.
Yes, I had attitude, what up? Depending on the camera you're in, you notice I don't have camera controls anymore because I'm not in the camera view. So if I want to go back to taking pictures, I can still use the hard button on here to take a photo, but I have to come back here if I want the camera stuff on the side. So to switch cameras, I'm just picking the camera. So there's your map. On the lower left will be your map view. On the lower right, I can switch between the first person view camera or that camera.
Gimbal recenter.
This right button here will also let me switch between the two. I can switch between each one. Again, the first person view camera I'm gonna use when I'm just flying around. Notice when I'm in the first person, or the camera view, I just have camera settings. I also have the arrow button in the upper left. If I press that, that's another way I can recenter the gimbal. So if I'm off this way, and instead of pressing this button, do we want to reprogram? I can pull this guy down here and say, ooh, recenter
Gimbal
the gimbal.
recenter.
So I just press
Ah,
this
okay.
one. So this will let you recenter everything. This will recenter and point the camera straight down. So if I want to get back to a nadir view, if I go off, I can press that second one,
Gimbal down.
gimbal down. So I can keep that up. It's persistent.
So it will allow only these 4 positions, right?
Gimbal recenter.
Yep. And again, this last one will be a map view. When you're out in the field, it will be zoomed in where you are. So it won't be way out here. So as we zoom in here, you'll also see the position of the aircraft on the map. Okay. So as we get closer to when we go outside, you'll see the aircraft on the map. You'll see where we are. This is where we're going to create our missions and stuff like that. Question?
P1 is the payload and
Payload.
the first person is the built-in camera.
Correct. Yeah. And if we have that camera on, it'll be L1 in first person. That's the L1 LiDAR, P1 fire imagery. The map mode is where we do all of our mission creation and our monitoring. We also have some extra tools on here to center our position on our location, but we have no GPS, so we don't know where we're at. So this only works if the aircraft can actually detect where it is, the location. This is make sure that north is always up, or the map will rotate the drone. I would leave that locked. This changes your layers from satellite view to street map view, and this just erases marks. This gives you information on airports. So as we get near airports and stuff where we're flying, you'll see the map populate with flight restriction areas. Okay, this will turn those on and off. These buttons over here are for drawing measurements and taking areas. So just in this mode without a mission, I can say, oh, I want to see how far it is from point to point. I can zoom in. It's getting close here. So let's say I'm over here. You know, I take a measurement. I can say point to point. I can draw a line and get a measurement on there. And use that to kind of mark out boundaries or stuff like that. Change colors, whatever. Okay. Hit OK, and that line becomes a permanent part of it. Whatever. I can clear a line. Yep. Same thing with points. Now, this is kind of cool. This guy right here lets me set a key point to where my drone is. Let's say I'm doing an inspection or I'm doing a flight and I come across an object of interest. I can pinpoint it. I can stop the drone. Let's say it's flying right here on my map. I can stop the drone. I can press this and it'll mark a diamond on there. Okay. Then I can fly off someplace else and I'll always have that place marked so I can come back to it. The cool part about that mark is when I'm in my first person view, I go to my first person camera and I point the drone in that way, that little diamond will float across the screen and say, hey, there, your mark is right there. It'll also appear as a direction in here. So I can use this to turn my drone in the direction to fly back to that position. So it acts as a navigation point. Okay. Bear in mind, this map view is only applicable to the free flight mode, which we're in. When we're in mission mode, there'll be different icons up here. So this is only for the free flight mode. You guys need a break?
Yeah, I need it. I got sunscreen into my eyes.
Oh, I
So
hate
it's
that.
killing me.
It happens to me every day.